Hi everybody, I'm Kristen. Welcome back to Indie Game Origin, where we showcase indie studios from around the globe. And today we're going to be talking with Danilo with his solo-developed game, Avante Atlantis, which isn't out quite yet. He is a very talented solo developer that works with freelancers, do the art and design for many of the characters that are inside of this game as well. I was incredibly impressed with just the sheer amount of work that he's done pretty much on his own. Today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that he has faced creating this game, as well as some of the features that you can expect from the story. Avante Atlantis is a strategy game that allows players to strategize and either fight the computer in a single player mode or to multiplayer with each other. There's some pretty cool features in this game that we talk about, the motivations behind them, how they're tested, and how they ended up looking, how they are in the game. And a lot of these features look pretty sick. It's going to be a really cool game when it finally comes together, and to have been made primarily by himself is just an incredible feat. Danilo is a technical artist at a AAA studio in his daytime, and that definitely shows in the work that is coming together for this game. If you'd like to know more about Avante Atlantis or about Danilo, you can actually follow the Steam project in the show notes below. You can also join the Discord where people talk about things that are going on in the game and you get regular developer updates. You can also follow Danilo on Blue Sky. So all of those links are in the description below. And if you like this content, I would really appreciate if you would like and subscribe. This really helps to make sure that IGO can continue to bring you interviews from unique studios that you might not see otherwise. Hi everybody, today we're going to talk with Danilo about his game Avante Atlantis. I'm super excited to have him join us. Yeah, can you introduce yourself and a little bit about your game?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Danilo. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil, and I've been working on Avante Atlantis for 8 months, I think. In July it's gonna be a 1 year, and I've been doing that solo with some help for some freelancers. But that's it. And in my work time, I work in AAA studios, big games. I'm a proper professional technical artist as well, and also in my free time I do mentorships for people in games.
Awesome. And you mentioned that that mentorship is in Brazil primarily, right?
Yes, it's in Brazil primarily. It's through a mentorship program called Mentorship Games Brazil. And it's all about the industry, because I have the experience and I want to share this with people that don't have a lot of experience here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's great for Brazil as well, because there's not as many opportunities, I think, like globally outside of, the US, and I think some places in Europe, it can be very difficult to access the industry. So it's awesome that there's places for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to dive a little bit into Avante and chat about, the process of your game. You're a solo dev on the project, right? It's just you.
Yes. It's just me with my wife helps sometimes with just ideas like brainstorming. And I have one guy that I hire him to do the music, and 2 other people that help me with the characters, the drawn characters, and the logos of the nations I have in the game. But the rest, programming, the pixel art, lighting, tools, marketing, it's me.
That's a lot of work. Every individual part is a lot. So yeah, I would like to commend you. That's an incredible amount of work. And I mean, the amount of work that you've put in is very visible in the work that you've shared on Steam and what I can see on your Blue Sky page as well. So I'm really excited to see how this comes together. Yeah, I would like to know a little bit about the inspiration. What really inspired you to create this game and spend so much energy and time on this specific project?
So I've always been doing side projects, let's say, because on my professional life I worked on a lot of projects that got cancelled, and usually game devs on the free time they work on their own games, so that's a thing we do. So I've always been doing like some small projects, mainly for learning as a tech art, because I play with art, I play with programming as well. So I've been doing a lot of stuff and I never finished any one of them, so very classic as well for every game dev. And when I started doing Avante, it was just a prototype to see if I could create work with pixel art inside Unreal Engine, which is the engine I'm using because I'm a specialist. For me, it's easier to use for Advance Wars. So like, hey, can I do that? And then just started creating something. People started liking it. I started having more ideas, and the main inspiration I think I'm a fan of Advance Wars. It's been a long time since I played, but I've been playing more board games. So board games like Carcassonne, Scythe, Mysterium, and like all this kind of board games. When I was developing, I think, what if I mixed Advance Wars, but if it was a board game? And then it became Avante Atlantis.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that in the mechanics that you've showcased in the Steam page in particular. There is this really interesting combination of features. So it's great to see where, you know, the original inspiration for that has come from. And I never put that together as I was looking at it. So I think that it has become sort of this unique thing outside of it. That it's really exciting to see that develop. The aesthetic that I really enjoy about your game is that it's both this sort of reference, for me anyway, it's this reference to like board games that I used to play as a kid, and also 8-bit, you know, side-scrolling games that I used to play on the, you know, the old NES. And so it's great to hear that nostalgia factor is a huge influence in the Inspire. Yeah.
100%. And one thing I also, I was an environment artist before, like a 3D environment artist, so I never been good in making characters. So for me it was like both, I can do this, I can do pixel art, and I can do 3D, beautiful lightings and like realistic things in Unreal. So for like, what if I mix them? And I was a lot in mind wanting to do something like Octopath Traveler with that HD 2D effect. I'm like, oh, but what if I mix more 3D, not just pixel art, because I'm not that a pixel artist myself. So I think it was the perfect balance for me to work on it.
Even perfectly aligned with skill set, which is awesome.
Yes.
Probably makes your life a lot easier.
A lot easier, yes.
Yeah, definitely. That actually touches a little bit on what I was planning to chat about next, which are what are some of the challenges that you have faced? Because being a solo dev is a huge task, as you mentioned. Are there any difficulties that you have faced so far? How have you kind of come over some of those difficulties?
I think more technically speaking, there's not a lot of challenges. It's more about finding time. So, and it's part of my job already. Also, solving problems is already it's on my core. I think the hardest part is in the beginning having the ideas and have no one to chat about with. Like, oh, is this a good idea, right? Is this good? Let's like chit chat. So like I was doing this with my wife. My wife is not a full gamer, but like I tried to explain to her, and now she understands the project even better than me. It's really good because now with her I can chat about the ideas, and she's like, no, why don't you try this, try that? I think this is the most challenging thing, is doing everything alone. Is this good? I don't have people to test it. And I think the other one is dealing with areas that you're not an expert or like good at it. I think a good one beside characters that I already mentioned, it's music, sound. I know the basics of the basics of the basics. So I had to talk to a guy. Actually, this guy, Monoflow or Andreas, came to me just like, I loved your project. Can I work on it? And I'm like, oh, I'm not hiring now because I don't have the money and everything. And he's like, okay, I'll keep in contact. And I think one day later he came with a sample. Like he's like, I loved your game so much. I made a mini sample what I think the music could be. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna hire you. And it's the two background musics you hear in the trailer in the Steam, which are very catchy. So I loved his work, and he would do more sounds. But yeah, it's dealing with this areas. I think is the more complex one, because I have to go find someone who's willing to work on the project, who I know that matches the style I want, as being like a client, right? Like, oh, I want this, and trying to explain to them. But I'm getting better. I think people understand what I'm trying to achieve, and also financially, right? I don't want to hire anyone by doing free jobs. I really want to pay them, and I pay them. So, but I'm like, okay, let's do one. So I pay this one, and then we go as I can pay you.
That absolutely makes sense. So it's like time, finances, coordinating with other people, and you know, it's really incredible that people have really resonated with the project so much that they were willing to take that jump forward and say, no, I'm gonna make this anyway. I'm gonna make this track anyway. Yeah. The music is really incredible. I remember listening to it and I was like, oh, I'm amped up.
Exactly. That was the whole deal, and it's good because like with art, with the characters, I can give feedback more properly because like, oh, I want more this. With music, I was just trying to like give feelings. Like, oh, I want more I want more epic. And he's like, no, I got you. I know that this is perfect. And he managed to do it, and the music is great. Even myself, I catch myself humming the music while like I'm washing the dishes or doing something else.
I really do think music plays a really strong part in the success of a project. I think about, for example, Stardew Valley, one of these sort of cult classic indie games, and there are playlists on YouTube that are specifically the Stardew Valley music and things. So perhaps that will be part of the future cult following of your game. That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you've got a really awesome team. You've got people that are really good at visually communicating the concept that you're trying to get behind the game, as well as people who really just understand the mood that it's trying to set as well.
100%, yeah.
In the game, I noticed that there's some pretty unique gameplay mechanics. How did you decide on this blend of a functionality? What do you hope that people experience when they're playing a game of this style?
I think it's exactly what you said. It's just like it's a board game on your computer. And I played other board games like Carcassonne, Scythe, Calico on the computer because they have their own applications for that. And I loved the experience because I could play these games, and I like having people at home to play, but like, we could play in the computer as well. But ideally as well, I want to feel it's an actual board game and not a digital board game, let's say. So that's why I have all the elements in the game. So you have the main board, right, with the pieces and everything. And that's the only part I try to be more creative, like not to be that realistic. But even with that, I have all the tiles with like forests and mountains, and they look like a pop-up book that go up and down when you select the area around it. I have the UI that are based on playing cards. All the UIs have based on like magic cards from the game Root as well, like as inspirations I had. And of course, I think the main one is the dice that you have them collide. And I think I just thought like, that would be cool, and people started like, I love the dice colliding. It's cool. I want always, and there's nothing much to it about them colliding. It's just a cool effect that I thought it would have. So I still need to put something on that. And actually, that came because Advance Wars, this type of game like turn-based tactics, people don't like randomness. It's always like, I know I'm doing a right thing. So it's not completely random. So like this tank will hit an infantry and will be good. But what Advanced Wars don't show you, actually they shows you, but not directly, is that there's a luck factory that adds just a little bit of attack power or defense power, but they never show you what this number is, because it's just a random number. And what I did, I was like, I want to bring that forward to the players so they know what they're having it. And that's the dice. So the dice is just this extra randomness that doesn't affect much, but it could be a difference between staying alive one more turn or not.
That's awesome. And it's really interesting to hear other people thought the same thing, because I remember looking at your Steam page for the first time, and I really like that zoom in effect that happens. Yes. There's that, it's really satisfying. It reminds me of, when you have haptic feedback in a mobile game. It's sort of the visual version of that. It feels very, like you can almost like feel it vibrating in the screen. I'm like, yeah, like I hope I get a high enough number. It's really cool. Yeah, it's I'm really excited to see how that impacts your ability to stay alive.
Yeah, I have things that I'm still writing, development, see if it works, but that may affect in the future. Like, it's still not affect that much, of course, because we don't want randomness, but it might have like small percentages. For example, about having, if you hit a 10 in the dice and the other hits a 0, maybe there's a special thing there, like a small percentage of something good happening, or bad if you take a 0 and the other one take a 10. So, but I still need to test that if it's worth implementing, because it's based on a paper I read about psychology in games, about things called white noise, brown noise, and pink noise. And if white noise is basically pure random, and what I'm trying to do is pink noise, which is 99% of the time is always the same, or like what the outcome will be, but there's a 1% chance there's something very good or very bad will happen. If you think it's like if you roll a d20 and you get a 20 or you get a 1, it's basically the same thing, the same idea.
That's great. Kind of adds this excitement factor of, is this going to mess with my progress or help me further along? How do you go about balancing something like that? Have you been able to test through maybe the demos that you've been releasing, or how do you test to see if this balance makes sense?
Mainly, I test myself, and I have some close friends that they have the game and they help me. Like, oh, this is good, this is not good. The first demo that we had, it was mainly with 3 units, so it was fairly easy to balance. It was just tank, bazooka, and infantry. But now that I have 20 units, I still made in a way that I didn't. That's another thing that Advanced Wars does, that every unit has a specific attack against every other unit. And while in Avante, I wanted to do something more like rock, paper, scissors. So you have something that has a high defense, and there's a lot of them that have high defense. And the high defense is good against light attack, medium attack, and not that good as a strong attack. Right, and same as it goes, like, so infantry is bad against all the attacks because they're just humans, just infantry, and then the tanks and everything else has light, medium, and strong armor. So it becomes more intuitive to balance them. So I can balance them with the amount of units of that type you can build, or the how much they cost, or extra things. For example, I can make a unit that's very powerful and a ranged attack, have to reload 1 turn before attacking again. So there's these small things I can start balancing to make the game to feel balanced, to feel fair in the end, right? If you get a lot of money, if you want to not build anything, and in the end you just build like 7, we call them ballistics, which is the ranged heavy armor, heavy attack unit. It's like, yeah, you can, but you wasted 20 turns to buy like all of them. So it's all about high risk, high reward. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something personally I really like in games. It's like, should I go for it? There's this debate that happens internally of do I take the risk of trying to do it? And something I think about a lot when it comes to games is this replayability factor. I think that is becoming increasingly more important, and it sounds like the mechanics that exist allow for people to kind of replay infinitely. It sounds like there's a story that goes on with Atlantis, this discovery of this disappeared civilization. Is it sort of like a story that you're walking through? Is it like you're putting pieces together? What does the playthrough structure kind of look like?
So mainly I needed a background story, right, for the game. So the main idea is that Atlantis. First of all, let's go back. Things I can say. So the world is basically based on our own world. So like the world is in a little bit more war side, let's say. The world's on. A lot of people, the nations are at war, or like they just don't like each other, but they're very aggressive towards each other, and they are all eating the natural resources of the planet. So trees, mountains, and everything else, rocks. And that's one of the things that caused the conflict. And one random day, Atlantis showed up, and people are like, free land, like it's a free piece of land with a lot of resources and everything else. And with that, the world decided that, like, let's make it fair, right? So everybody wants that, of course, it's right in the middle of everyone. So let's make it fair. Let's make a competition. Let's start all equally from all the sides of the island, and let's go on this specific date, and together, whoever conquers Atlantis is the owner. So it's fair and square for everybody, because that's how the world we live in. But as we go, and this is the story mode, right, you will discover as the player, and the characters will discover as well, that Atlantis has been like a secret for a reason, right? And you discovered why it just showed up now, and basically what happened to the long lost civilization. And the whole game is all the maps and everything that I'm trying to make are in Atlantis, that are not in all the other nations that I have and everything else. So one thing I'm changing actually right now is to make the tiles a little bit more natural, because I had roads, I had cities and everything else. So now I'm changing for like dirty roads and everything else. And there's a little bit of a magic happening in Atlantis that you'll see with different biomes and different tiles and things that will happen on the game.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I was so curious how Atlantis plays a role in this, and that's a really good hook of when you discover why it's a secret. That's really good. That's good copywriting. Yeah. That's really, really good. Because now I'm like, I want to know the secret. I want to know why they've disappeared. That's really exciting. I think for players that is such an important element, is this sort of element of surprise, of feeling comfortable and then having sort of this almost a full rug pull. You get this rug pulled out from under you and you're like, oh, there's this other thing that's going on. I am Yeah, that it sounds really exciting and maybe also difficult to write. It might be hard to figure out how to do that in sort of a fashion that feels natural and would make sense to people. Have you had to edit your writing with that at all?
Yeah, so because I was just throwing ideas here, me and my wife, and I got with this, I'm not telling, so I don't spoil, like this base thing I want to tell basically. And I started writing at least a base for that. And I have actually, I forgot to name him, and he's a close friend of mine. He lives like 2 blocks from me. He's a writer. He wrote 2 books already and everything. So he's helping me with some details, just like how to form the structure and like helping write the character's backstory and the whole story together. So I'm giving him like the ingredients, let's say, for the cake, and he knows how to make the cake. So Guilherme, yeah, thank you so much as well.
Wow, that's a great resource to have too. Like, hey, can you give me some information about this, please?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that's actually something you mentioned, yeah, when we were talking about solo development challenges, is just not having a lot of people to be able to get feedback from. Because working in, AAA, you've got dozens of people that you can roll your chair over to and say, hey, what do you think? So I'm glad that, there's a resource with somebody who knows story-based structures. That's not something that I am a master in by any means. So I think that is going to really play a role in making the game very exciting to play through as you discover these sorts of secrets and level up your armies, and maybe it sounds like potentially defend yourself. So it could be a really incredible element to be involved.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. So I was reading about the commanders in your game. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about these commanders and how their abilities might impact the gameplay?
So the commanders, I think, as all this type of games, especially Advanced Wars, they have the characters, right? I think that's one of the things that get you hooked on, like you like the character. So since the beginning, I need characters, right? But I don't know how to draw, so that's why I hired Luis, who is doing the characters for me, and that specific style that we founded together. So the characters are basically the leading commanders of each nation that will command the army towards Atlantis. But they're not actually the military commander. So in the story, there's a reason why there's these specific people that are leading the army. So at the moment that we have done, we have first Armstrong, which is actually a general of the army of the Garnet Eagles nation, which is a classic old general, very ruthless. You'll do everything, big mustache, big chest. But in the other side that we have it done as well is Amara, which is a rocket scientist from the Safari Alliance nation, and she's more on the science side. And why is she's not from the army or anything, but there will be a reason. And we have other commanders as well that I'm working on it with Luis, and we're drawing it. But I don't want to spoil the surprise. But there will be interesting figures interesting characters on the game that you will not expect, I think. And as for abilities, still in the whiteboard phase, but the idea is that each commander will have its own ability. I think a classic one would be it heals all your units if you load your power bar, or you choose an area to give damage in that amount of tiles. And I think as well, similar to Advanced Wars, I have 2 power bars, so you could charge the power bar to 50% and use a less powerful version of your special, or you can leave to 100% and use the full power. But it would be basically the same, just a powered up version. So for example, if your power is to heal units in an area, so for example the 50% will be heal in an area 4x4 and heals 5 points, while the big one is heal in a 5x5 area and 7 points, for example. So it's still very simple, very directly to the point. I don't want to go crazy. One of them I'm thinking as well is to power up the dice, the roll you can do. So instead of going from 0 to 10, maybe 10 to 20, or force your enemy to roll just from 0 to 3. I don't know. It could be something interesting to play, but I still have to test it.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like there's a lot of steps after finalizing the draft of ideas of what these commanders might be able to do. So there's a lot of stages to make sure that it's balanced, but I think that's going to be really incredible, because something that I really love about this style of gameplay that you're developing is the strategy. You have to really think about not just what I can do, but what the other person can do, so you can try to sink them into the ground, to put that nicely. You know, even as far back as I was a big player of Mario Kart, but the original like Nintendo 64 version. I still play it now, but I'm old now. It's so fun. And when I used to play this Nintendo 64, I remember really having more understanding and more connection with certain plays, like certain characters that you can play. For example, I was a big Yoshi player because I just sort of understood his like tongue licking feature. So it's going to be interesting to see which commanders players understand a little bit better and which ones, you know, they can't fight against necessarily.
Fair. I call it a personal counter. I'm playing a lot of online games, and like I'm playing now Marvel Rivals, and when I play, like, for example, against Spider-Man, I'm like, oh, I can't deal with Spider-Man. It's my personal counter. No matter what character I choose, it's personal. I cannot deal with it. So yeah, I got it.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. There's always one enemy in Diablo that I just can't get the timing right, you know? Like, no matter how much I dodge and weave, I just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, I was looking at your maps this morning. You made mention of you made mention of different biomes and how these different biomes actually look different now. I saw on one of your recent Blue Sky posts, it's like the road is same. It's the same, but it's different.
Yes.
Now we have this different sort of texture on it. And it looks like there's also a map editing feature that is part of the game. This is very intriguing to me as somebody who really enjoys map building. How do you imagine people utilizing this feature in the game?
So I always want to do the map editor, and actually one fun thing is I already have one. It's not in the game, but I made one for myself, so it's easier to make maps on the game. It's trying to do the same principle for the player. So I always like to play and see like you, like map building games and or in games as well. I really wanted, because I'm just one making all the maps for the game, so I want to have this option that players could make their own maps and play with their friends, and maybe have a server list of maps that you can choose to play player-made maps with some conditions. Of course, you cannot just make any map and submit. What I would try to make is to do some automatic testing between, like, have two AIs play that and see how it goes, because it needs to be balanced, right? If these two AIs play 100 matches on that map and one it's like 90% always winning, it's like, okay, it's not balanced and it's not going online, so it's not fair. So like trying to aim for a 50-50 or 60-40 mainly mirrored maps. People can enjoy other maps, so I don't have to keep making maps all the time as well for my own sake. I think that's the biggest point.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like it serves sort of a double function of, one, making your life easier, which as a solo developer absolutely matters. That's very useful. And then second of all, when you get people like me who will kind of nerd out about where we want to put specific things, that gives players, I think, a lot of extra power, and that's something that has really drawn me to the game. So I'm excited to build a couple of maps in there and see if I can destroy my enemies.
And I think it opens as well for me to make like map building competitions and giving rewards to players, and like I want to talk to my player base to see what they're liking and helping with the balances and everything else. So like that's one thing I'm looking for when I have the game launched and everything else. So I want this community to be part of the development of the game as well.
That's great. Yeah, I actually just joined your Discord because somehow I'd missed the link for it. Is that where you usually interact with the players that want to give feedback, where you hold these kinds of competitions, or are you thinking about hosting that more on social?
So our Discord is very quiet. Recently I just post my devlog and people react, but sometimes we talk there and I get some feedback. We had a demo. I removed the demo from Steam now because I'm working on a new one, but I think we had 8 maps, and I think 4 of them were community made. I like, just give me something on Paint or Photoshop or whatever, how you want to show me. These are the pieces you can play with, and so some people in the Discord made the map. So I was like, hey, it works. They're balanced and everything else. So, but I want to bring this forward later to the socials, like a map building competition. But I want to have something so people, like a tool or a site or whatever, so people can work on that and not just like go on Photoshop and do something, so it's something more streamlined. And I think that's my technical art brain talking. But yeah, it's basically this. But it will take some time yet because I'm working on the core mechanics of the game still.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I think, as you mentioned, I think that having a really easy way to interact with that, an easy way to actually build that map out is really useful for players and members of the community. I haven't done UX per se in quite some time, but it is something I think about with players is what's the easiest way to reduce the strain and the amount of work that somebody has to do to accomplish a task like build a map for the game. Yeah, it sounds like it's a little bit down the road, which totally makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of other boxes to to tick before that, but yeah, someday that's going to be a huge boon, I think, to one, your marketing and advertising and getting people interested in the game, but really increasing this kind of community and fandom that exists behind it. But so it sounds like, yeah, you've released at least one demo. What was the strategy behind these releases?
So basically, I wanted to have a demo by the end of the year, so that was November, mainly to test to see if it was a good game, if people liked it. So it was very basic. We had 8 maps with just 3 units, which was infantry, bazooka, and tank. And because I showed actually the game in a small event here in Brazil called AI Jogos, which I wanted to show in there. So like, I want to do this before the end of the year. I want to have the demo playable. So that was the first point I wanted to test, and it was very well received by everybody. I even had a guy in the event who said, "Hey, I felt smart playing your game." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. That's very, very awesome to hear." But I think as I developed the game more, and when I did that demo, was more like, just let's see if it works. And after that, I stopped and started writing like, okay, what's my MVP? What I need for the game? Like X commanders, X units, X maps, the story, map creator. So like I put everything on a document. And like, okay, this is my MVP. And now I started working towards that. And now that I work more, I'm like, okay, the demo doesn't represent what the game is anymore. Like I changed it visuals. It's a little more realistic on the realistic side. The UX changed, new units, new maps, and new battle boxes, which are called where the dice collides and everything, which I posted a video today about it. So like, okay, it doesn't represent anymore. So I decided to remove the demo, and now I'm working towards a new one. I think I'm trying my best to do one by the end of this month. Which is one thing also that I couldn't do, and now it's almost done, is single player battles. So you play against the computer, the AI, whatever you want to call. Because the first demo was only multiplayer. And a lot of people like, oh, I don't have anyone to play with. So I'm not playing now. So I'm like, okay, I need single player, at least the basics. So mainly this new demo will be to test this. Like, okay, a lot more people will play together or single player against the AI or the computer, whatever you want to call it. I want to see what's the reacting, the balancing, the maps, if they think something is not understandable. So that's, I think, my next step. As early access, I was gonna do early access before, but as a lot of people approached me, and I see the game has potential, so I'm holding off early access and see if I can talk maybe with a publisher or something else, so I can push up the marketing of the game to be more on other platforms. A lot of people asking me to be a VR game or a Oculus game or AR game as well. Like, oh, I could sit on my couch and play it with a friend. And a lot of people say, oh, it's mobile, it's crazy for it. Or like Steam Deck or Switch. Or like, yeah, I want to do all this, but it's just me. So maybe if I can find a publisher or something, that will help me a lot towards that goal as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good strategy, one to just balance the game overall, to make it feel like, you know, you're not OP super quickly, or that you never get the opportunity to do that at the end. Also, I think I am personally in that group of people that hasn't quite gotten into VR or AR yet. I've tried it a little bit and it made me really dizzy, but this was also 10 years ago. So probably
Yeah.
technology has changed quite a bit. And I have a friend who recently built out a VR version of Pokemon, definitely not associated with Niantic or anybody who actually owns the title. But it's really, I think, quite fascinating to see this become part of gameplay. And I do think eventually in the future, people are probably going to be doing this more and more. So I imagine, yeah, sitting on your couch and watching dice crash would be very satisfying.
Oh, yes. Exactly. And one thing it's fun as well is that when somebody said VR, I'm like, or like AR, I like, yeah, I can see, because I made it in a way that it looks like a board game and works like a board game. So like it can 100%. And of course, my ultimate goal, if it ever happens, is to make Avante Atlantis as well as a board game, like a physical one that you can play with, of course, a little bit of changing mechanics to work as a physical board game. But I'm like, yeah, if it's successful and I have the money and time, I'll definitely like do something like this, because I can see it's a match made in heaven, let's say, to make it.
That's true. If you do ever decide to go a crowdfunding route, whether that's like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I will be one of your backers. I would love to actually purchase the game. I know building both digital and physical products can be a huge piece of work to do. So I know it might be a while, yeah. But yeah, I'd love to see if you do ever go beyond demos into early access. It'll be really exciting to see if that influences the game as well. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of progress that's happening when you've got time, of course. You mentioned before that you've got this background in art. That's really what you do primarily. Do you do art or programming at your day job?
Both. As a tech art,
Oh, okay.
I'm the bridge between programmers and artists. I have a bachelor degree in computer science, but I also studied at Nomon in Los Angeles with game art. So I'm the mix of both.
That's awesome. That's a really cool place to be. It's like the creative side, but also analytics, strategy, organizing,
Yes.
those kinds of things. It's very both sides of the brain.
Yeah, it's good when being in an indie dev with this mentality, because when I'm like doing coding in a program, it's very logical, like, oh, okay, test. And when like I'm tired, I just switch to art, which is like, oh, I don't just art. So it switches the brain very easily, so I can stay working more. And of course, one time I have to stop and I do something else. But it's really good because I can switch and I don't feel tired, different from days that I just program or just do art, and then I get tired very easily when I'm doing just one side of the brain, let's say.
Just fatigue a single one.
Yeah, exactly. While the one is loading and the other like, okay, drained, and then it goes like this.
That's awesome. It's like whales. They shut off half of their brain to sleep.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that. That's awesome.
Awesome.
It sounds like there's a really awesome balance that you've got in terms of workload, being able to switch roles, switch modes pretty easily. I think your experience has probably influenced the artistic direction of the game in some ways, and you've also got an artist that is working and contributing to character designs, and I really love the very unique blend of sort of pixel art but also sort of 3D a little bit as well. What has really influenced the artistic choices that you've made behind the game?
I think was mainly because I was playing a lot of Octopath Traveler, like I said, and it's just like I love the blend. And even in my previous project that I was never finished, it was a HD 2D game, which was trying to play with pixels and this like depth blur 3D and everything. So I think that was the main influence, but mainly the main thing was, I think, more on the technical side. Is like, what can I do? Because if it gets too complex, I'll start like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, you get tired more easily, or like I have to learn a completely new skill. So like, what can I do that I know? Like, getting out the best parts that I can do. So like, oh, I can do programming, I can do basic pixel art, I can do 3D realistic. That's my thing. And I know Unreal. So like, what can I do with this? For example, one of the things that I don't know how to do and I actually hate is animation, like 3D animation with characters and everything. So every time I had an idea for a 3D game with characters and they're animated, I'm like, I have to learn animation and whatever else. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this because it's going to take me 10 years, right? And my main goal was like, what can I do in 1-2 years so I have something finished, I can ship it and call it a day. So I think that's the main reason. And then, of course, you start liking the visual and everything else, and then you start like, okay, what fits with this? What fits that I can do that's easy? And not all the things. For example, I had the ideas with the UX, but the cards and everything else. But I was like, I don't know how to do. So like, I talked to a friend who's a UX designer, and they're like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and give me some ideas, some core ideas, concepts, and then with these concepts, I go and like, okay, let me apply this now. So like, I understand why it's bad now, not just it's bad and I don't know why. Especially, I think one of the things when I started doing the game, instead of being a board, would be a book, and you were like playing the stories, like the Plug Squire, like you have the open book and everything. The day I had that idea was, I think, the release of Plug Squire, and like, oh no, it's too similar. I cannot do this. So I like, oh, maybe a board game, and then started all shaping up together. And doing a lot of prototypes as well, which is something I do in my job like every day. So I never go fully for a feature. Just go, I want to do this and everything. So I always do small things, prototypes, see if it works, and then I start implementing on top of them. It's just, I think, good workflow that I got from my years working on AAA.
Yeah, so you don't get stuck in the mud, like trying to
exactly.
go back in circles, which I think if I ever were to try to make a game, that's definitely where I would get stuck, is trying to go, but what's that expression? Put the cart before the horse. I think
yes,
I would probably
exactly.
put things in the wrong order. So yeah, it sounds like there's a really good flow with the progression of both the art and the features that have been added there. And something I really loved about the art style in the game is that it's almost like joyful. It sort of feels to me a little bit like an old comic book. You've got these really sort of bright yellows, blues, and reds. And I think my interpretation and something that I loved about it is that it makes this potentially a very serious topic a little bit less serious. It becomes a little bit more like playful, a little bit more almost like joy around it as well. And that's something that I really like about that, because I tend to do, I'm not gonna lie, I tend to play very heavy, very dark games. I've played The Last of Us a couple times, for example. I don't know why, for whatever reason, that's what I tend to be drawn to for like a year or two at a time. But once I get tired of those games, I will definitely go back to more fun, sort of animated, bright colors, less kind of emotionally intensive titles. And so I love that this game is exploring really unique topics, but doing it through a method of like playfulness visually, and with the it feels like it pulls on nostalgia. It's this very like childhood sort of playful nostalgic feeling of interacting with, you know, maybe your sibling or a cousin or something like that, and getting angry and flipping the game off the table. You know, it really is reminiscent of so many of those things. And I love how the art has really played a part in bringing that mood to the player and to the environment that it's in. And you had made mention earlier actually about adding a single player mode, and potentially even multiplayer modes. It sounds like that's a huge feature in the game. How do you go about testing sort of single player, multiplayer to make sure that these are sort of unique or compelling experiences for players?
I think for this type of game, it's very straightforward, right? It's just like one against the other. I just need to make sure the units, like we talked, like units and maps being balanced. And when you're playing against the computer is balanced as well. So like I test a lot myself because I'm not good at this type of game. Like I usually like Advanced Wars, it's just like I like tank. I want to go with tank and hit that guy. I don't know if I'm good against it, right? I'm not. I did another interview with Avante where I played the game with the guy, and the guy beat me on the 2 maps I had, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not good at it, but I think what I'm good at is like taking a outer look of it, and like in a game from a game designer or a developer perspective, and like, okay, this is fun, this is not fun, this is balanced, this is not balanced, and I have all the thinking about if it's what's the strategies and everything else to the players. Of course, I have some basics ideas of strategies that when I make a map or have a unit, but I think it's mainly this. And because I keep playing and testing a lot, and I have already a basic computer version that I play against, it's easy for me to just test if a map is good, because I'm not good, and if I play against the AI I have, it's just like, okay, it's balanced. And of course, I call friends, my wife to play, and everything else. And what I'm doing a beta for the Discord community as well, so they can play it and see like, yeah, maybe. But at least for now, all the maps, everything I had for now was very balanced, and everybody love it. I think it's easier when you make mirrored maps, so it's like the same. It's harder when you make non-mirrored maps, so like how do you balance that? And I think it goes as well with the choices of the player. If you're in a map that you're building units, it's all about like what you're gonna do. You're gonna conquer cities to get more money and can build more, or you're gonna just rush, because the game incentivizes attack. Like it doesn't like that you just stay behind and defend yourself. So that's why every time you attack, you do more damage, and then the counterattack deals less damage. It's not like, of course, if you go with an infantry and attack a tank, then it's a suicide attack. But it forces you to be offensive. So it forces everybody to meet in the middle usually. So that's where I put my focus, and sometimes a backdoor, just like, oh, if you don't pay attention, somebody go behind you and conquer your HQ, and you will lose the game, right? So you have to pay attention to this. But it's mainly these 2 points. I think it's the center, if the map is mirror, and these backdoors that it can make things more interesting.
Oh, that sounds like it could potentially alter the course of the game. So you have this sort of mirrored portion where everybody's sort of sharing literally the same ground structure. They have the same kind of problems to overcome, or the same advantages if there were to be some. But being able to utilize a square or two to completely change the strategy of how you're going to implement your attacks, that's potentially very exciting. And I will be totally honest that strategy games are not always the thing that I'm best at. I can do okay if there is a lot of how can I say? I can do okay if there's a lot of variables, like too many variables, very, D&D style kind of turn-based, because there's always something you can kind of pull an ace out of your sleeve usually. When it comes to you've got 6 things you can do, I tend to not be as strategic about utilizing those things. So it totally makes sense. I can empathize with that. And it's great that you've got people that can test it, both in your Discord and just in your personal circle as well, to see how they respond to altering different things. And it sounds like you chat a lot with people who are outside of your own mind, who can give you some feedback and things as well. Has the feedback that you've received influenced the path that you've taken with the game at all?
Oh yes, 100%. And I think that's one thing I miss the most being a solo dev, is just like, I miss talking to people that think different from me, right? Because I had this idea. I talked to my wife, and like, okay, yeah, that's the idea, blah blah blah. And I think I talked to one of the persons doing the logos for the nations, and it's like, oh, it'd be cool if that happened. And I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. It was just like a random comment, like, and then that like put a sin on my mind, and I was like, okay. And then basically it became a thing with one of the commanders that I actually had the idea today to swap one thing or the other. And actually, one of the things you said about strategy, about I'm the same. I'm actually the opposite. If there's small things, I can concentrate more and be more strategic. But if there's a lot of things, I get confused. And that happened, for example, in Advanced Wars, because they have, despite all the units having to like their own attack power against each individual unit, and etc. They have fuel and ammo as well, so like I have to keep track of that as well, plus the life of the unit. And one thing I want to do in Avante was like easy to understand, so like everybody, if you just want to play casually, you can, but if you want to master it, it's hard. because you don't have a lot of variables like chess. That's it. But like you have so many things you can do with these small variables, and you don't need to take care of like these hidden features or everything else. That I think it becomes a very interesting game to see on a competitive side as well, not just the casual side. And it's all like I want to make this game easy. I want to make this game that I like my nephew that can play, like 10 years old or whatever. And we're sure like that someone who doesn't play understands very easily as well. But if you want to play competitive, just like, oh, because this, and you have to go this and do this movement and blah, 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 you can do it as well. So it's all planned towards that main goal, basically.
That's great. Well, and that's great news for me. Makes it a little bit approachable for my skill set as well. I'm curious too. This might be a bit of a loaded question, because I think maybe the question itself may be putting the cart before the horse, but do you have plans to potentially expand the content for the game? You've mentioned potentially adding some biomes, maybe other units, maybe additional commanders, or is this kind of the end goal? Is mostly just finishing the title?
I think I have a MVP, like I said before. Like I have 8 commanders, 20 units, 4 biomes, X amount of maps that I don't think I'll ever finish them. I will not have a number specific for that. And like map creator, story mode, and this kind of stuff. And these basically when I finish story mode, which is the last thing I want to do, is when I plan to stop and see where it goes from there. I have like future plans. I would love to have, for example, a DLC, maybe free, maybe paid, I don't know, that adds a little bit more story, or add new units like naval and air units that I had before, but I removed them to time constraints and everything else, and complexity. But for example, I would love to have naval DLC with all the boats and things you can play in the water. And maybe an extra story on Atlantis. But it goes after I finish the game. I have the MVP, and I want to finish this because like I said, a lot of projects that I never finished, and it's on my backlog, or just on the graveyard, actually, not a backlog. So I want to okay, MVP, finish this, don't go crazy, or new commanders DLC, I don't know, something like this.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And it totally makes sense, right? Like, trying to get the game finished, it sounds like there's fewer hurdles now than there were at the beginning, when, the idea is pretty rough, asking, your wife for feedback, trying to get feedback from people playing the game. So there's a ton of progress that's been made, and it sounds like it's getting sort of close-ish to being ready for another round of testing. Totally makes sense to float that around, it around, but no necessary commitment to any of those ideas, which absolutely makes sense. But
it's fun
I
to
do
think about it.
I'm going to shoot for the stars, and I do think that there's huge potential with the game for having, like you mentioned, a really interactive community that takes part in competitions, both for maps and maybe just even competing with each other. I can even see some maybe potentiality for a ranking system. Is there sort of any plan in the works for that for competitors?
I planned that. It's just like on one of the last things I have planned, basically. Just not story mode, because the goal is to make the game playable, fully playable, without story mode. And then I'm like, okay, it's playable, it's good, it's perfect. It can sustain itself if I never finish story mode, perfect. And then I'll do story mode, but more implementation of the story mode, because I already have the stories being written and everything else. But that's the goal. And I have to think about ranking. I love to have something. Same thing with ranking player maps as well. I want to have okay, these are the maps that are submitted. How do you rank this map? You play it, it's fun. So most liked maps and best players, because they win. But how do I count that? So it's more in the technical side. How do I do that? Because you can cheat, right? You always can cheat on games. So how can I make people not cheat?
Oh, that's a good question. From both a technical standpoint and an ethical standpoint, it
Yeah.
becomes a huge question of how do you implement a response to cheaters? Is there an existing method for that? I've heard some people. Oh, what was the name of it? There's a mod that allows you to unlock any achievement in a game. And I've seen that there are some developers that are trying to sort of battle against that. But it's always an uphill battle, I think, trying to stop people from cheating. Yeah, I think a ranking system could be very compelling, but like you said, yeah, it sounds like quite a technical endeavor. It immediately sort of brings to mind when you finish a show on Netflix, there's an upvote or two upvotes, and then it sort of alters what it's going to recommend to you. So yeah, it would be very interesting to be able to rank other people's maps. And as a huge RPG player, map lover myself, I think I would enjoy just looking through the maps that people make.
Yes.
I think it would influence my map building skills for sure. And I think my last question for the moment is for other indie developers, for people who want to be in some sort of a similar position where you are, where you have a functioning MVP. What are some pieces of advice that you might be able to lend to people trying to get where you are?
Oh, I think the first one is to start small. Don't go like, I'm gonna make the next GTA or Skyrim. I think if you're an indie, don't do that. That's I give this advice as well on my mentorships. Just like, don't start small, especially if you never made a game before or like you have not a lot of experience. Focus on finishing something, doing something small that's playable, so you go through all the process of making a game. So like you know how hard it is to make a game, the programming, the art, the animation, sound, marketing, even if it's just for like your inner circle, right? If you already have more experience, you already know how to work in games, you already did something. I think the goal is start with prototypes first. It's something I do, and I worked. I've been working on AAA for 13 years, so a lot of experience with that. So I can say do a lot of prototypes. Don't go like you said. I put a car in front of the horse. Start small, like Q0 stage, Q1 stage. Test with friends. Test online if you can. And have an MVP in the end. The classic where indie gets stuck is oh, I want to add this feature. I want to make this to be better, and etc. So you get stuck in this hell loop about like you want to make more, and sometimes less is more. We'll go with that. And I think another one as well it's very important is that I saw some students doing this is staying too much on the paper before going to code, like to do something, and like writing GDDs and this kind of stuff. So like, while it's good to have that, I don't have one for Avante. It's just like me going crazy because I didn't plan, and now that I have one. But like just test a lot. Like I have this idea that's a mix between these two games. Go test, see if it works, see if it's fun. Sometimes I had this awesome idea test and it's horrible. It's not fun. It's complex. So get out of the paper as soon as you can and test to see if it's fun. And I think the most important one that we talked a lot in this call, like talk to people outside of your zone, your mind zone, not just your friends or your colleagues, developers. Talk to someone who's just like have a different point of view, who never played turn-based tactics, and you have to explain to them how it works, right? I don't think like go to your mom and never played a game in her whole life and play it, because I don't think that's a good feedback. But if for gamers, like go to events to show your game and see what people say about it, right? And I think that's it. And do something. I think finish is the best advice I can do. Have a time. Like I have 1 year to do this. Finish. So and do better in the next one. That's we always say like, oh, the next one it will be better. It will be bigger, better.
That's great. Yeah, find people in other biomes.
Get
their
exactly.
feedback. Yeah, I really love that piece of advice to improve every time. That's something that I try to take into my day job and all of my passion projects, sort of side things that I work on, is how can every stage be a little bit better than the last one. So I think any time, especially in a solo development way, or building a website, or building something for the first time, it's probably not going to be good. Right? It's probably not going to look great. It's probably not going to function well. But there's learning experiences to be had from every single failure. I think that failure maybe isn't even the word, but from every single barrier that we have to overcome, we get better and we can finesse things a little bit more smoothly the next time that it comes through. So I thank you for sharing your expertise. 13 years in AAA, I'm sure, has been intense, especially, nearing publishing dates. I can imagine that there's been a lot of late nights, a lot of long days. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking your time to chat with me and sharing your game with everybody. And as it gets closer to either a new demo version, or if you ever do issue early access or anything, let me know. And I don't have a huge following, but I'll blast it to the people that are paying attention. There's a few. There's a few people. So
that's great.
Yeah, I'd love to share and see if we can get your game in the hands of some players.
Nice. Thank you so much, Christine. I loved being here. I loved our chat. It's very nice. Even some things that I said out loud, and it became more real for me because, like I said, as being solo, sometimes I just have the thoughts in my head and I program them and that's it. But yeah, saying everything out loud, it's becoming more real that like I'll finish this game. I'll have something finished. And one thing I didn't say is just like being AAA, but I have, I think, 5 or 7 canceled projects on this whole 13 years, and all of this accumulated. It's like I worked 2 years on a gigantic game, the company closes or the project's canceled. So this finally feels something that will be concrete. Like I made this. Of course, my current company is going very well. Like I hope we launch the game and everything, and really 100% we will do. But with this, it's my own personal achievement. Like, I have something that I did all, not all by myself. A lot of people are helping me with this. But like, this is a personal dream. Like having a game that's mine, right? So yeah, and like I said, all the barriers and everything else, it helped me to be on this stage. I think this was the perfect time to make a game with all the knowledge now that I have and the time and everything else. It's all comboed perfect. I think it's the same with Avante Atlantis. The pixel and 3D just comboed and make everything works perfectly.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's like you've been sharpening the knife for a long time, and now it's finally time to use it.
Just stab.
Yeah, yes. To conquer that. Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. It must be also emotionally rewarding as well to have projects canceled. I mean, I understand that companies have to do what they have to do, but spending so much time connected to a project, working on a project, thinking about a project, building a project, and then it sort of disappears. Like, it's hard for that to not feel bad. To not have a more elegant way to say that. It's hard to not feel good, right? That people, all of this time and effort it feels like it's amounted to nothing. But in this way, you get to utilize all of these, even unfinished projects. I'm sure that a lot of the things that you learn from those experiences have really been utilized in this project itself. So absolutely those, projects have not been for naught, as they say in the olden days.
Yes, 100%. At the beginning I started like, all of this again for nothing, and now I see that everything I learned, not even just game dev, from life, just like it's all bits of knowledge that I can use on my new on the game or whatever I will do in the future. So yeah, it's all been worth.
That's so great. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to both future demos and the end result when it comes out. I'll definitely play it. I definitely won't be anywhere on any of the rankings at all, but I'll be around.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I can code myself into the rankings, right? But yeah, I won't do that.
Pull an Elon Musk and just like put yourself at number one. Oh my gosh. Like, I defeated everyone. Just kidding. My rank teammates. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's truly been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, Christine.